Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Good Stories Podcast. I have to tell you, we've had so much fun starting this show. It's been a wonderful time sharing stories that we already love and learning some new ones as we plan out future episodes. But a whole other aspect I didn't even think about ahead of starting is that we get to meet and continue to meet some amazing new people in podcasting. Both Stephen and I have listened to podcasts for a long time before starting our own. And there are some really good ones out there. Top of the list for both of us is the Pints with Jack podcast, hosted by David Bates. Pints with Jack is wonderful content focused on the late, great C.S. Lewis, also called Jack. And a few weeks ago, we got invited to an interview with David Bates, and we got to chat about books and stories and podcasting, and we had a great time doing it. So he wanted to share it with you today. So, twist, it's time for an interview.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Half Pint session. So, about half an hour ago, I just came back from Chicago, and I have to say, I love it when I come back and find that people have sent me books to read. But not only do I get to have free books to read, I get to introduce some friends that I made a few months ago. And this was actually before they started their podcast, the Good Stories podcast. And this is Jody and Stephen. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hi, good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, let's do some introductions first of all. Jody, why don't you start? Would you mind just introducing who you are?
So, yeah, I'm Jody. This is my brother, Steven. That's how we start, like, every episode, I think. We are just people who have always loved to read and talked about books together. So we both work for a living, too, but this is way more fun to do. So the last few months, we've done, 20 episodes just on very different books that are all good stories that make me happy to talk about.
And we will get into some of those stories in the podcast a little bit more in a moment. Stephen, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Stephen Keck. I'm Jody's older brother. We're the bottom two of four children, and our whole family are readers. We love stories, and Jody and I have often talked about books together, and people will listen. And so we figured if people were listening to us talk anyways, maybe we do a podcast out of it, and people might enjoy that.
Now, when you guys were growing up, did you fight over books? So my wife tells the story of, I think, Lord of the Rings and I think Harry Potter, whereby you were allowed access to the books in order of seniority within the family. And so she was waiting for her slow reading brothers to get through the work so she could start reading them.
I think we had different enough taste in books when we were young that there wasn't usually combat between them. Also, most of the books that we read or that I read came from the library, so we didn't own them anyway. And so that meant that sharing was easier because we picked the books we wanted from the library.
Yeah, I am not a book buyer. These behind me, I don't think I bought 98% of them. I'm a library person, so you could get anything you want at the library. No competition.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have only really recently rediscovered the library, and that's been as a parent. Because, I definitely used it a lot as a kid. And then when I got to university, I went to the library looking for helpful books. And it's one of the downsides of doing a degree like computer science. Like a lot of the stuff gets out of date really quickly. So I pretty much just sort of gave up on the library after that. And it was only when I had smaller people in my family that we took them to the library and discovered that how much fun it could be again. So that's really good. I do wish for you the same thing that happens to me. It took a few years before people started sending me free books to read and talk about. So I wish that for your future.
That's the dream right there. Like free books, awesome.
Right. Exactly. It's like I don't even have to ask them ask for free books about my birthday or Christmas. They just like come all year round. It's great.
But see, you have a theme with the Lewis. Ours is broader than that, so it could be any mix of things. I don't know. Not all books are good, so.
This is true. And sometimes I do get sent books that aren't that great. But I have to say I've enjoyed most of them. But let's now talk about your podcast. Let's talk about what you do in it first of all. So, there are a lot of book chat podcasts out there. How do you run yours?
When we started doing this originally, we had the concept of a book club was kind of the idea, how we would talk about the different books that we were reading through. But as we started to do a couple episodes, that sort of faded away. Our goal wasn't necessarily to get everybody to read all these. We wanted to introduce people to books that we loved. And so even if people were never going to pick up the book, we wanted them to be able to talk about it, or at least know why other people loved it and what other people got out of it. And so now what we do largely is we essentially walk through a story. Often we start with some background, we start with the author, but then we walk through the book, usually beginning to end, and through that hopefully introduce people to why we love it.
Yeah, all the time it takes us to other stories. It's the soup where they all connect overall. The more you do, the more they connect. And I really like the story bridging, where that makes me think of this other story. Or I know so many people who mean to read but don't get to it. It's not a habit that they have. So this has been a really cool way to introduce stories that people might not have time or not be able to read for whatever reason. Like my son picked up Ender's Game. I've been trying to get him to read Ender's Game for a couple of years, and he finally did because of the podcast. It's really fun.
Coolest mum ever. My mum talked about this on her podcast. Yeah. Well, the story behind Pints with Jack, it began life as an in-person book club that was then meant to become an online book club. But I think what you very quickly evolved to, it took us a little while to realize, because we actually had several episodes that we recorded before we actually recorded the first one properly and posted it. And for me, it came from the desire, if you've ever been in a book club and somebody there hasn't read the book, it absolutely destroys the meeting. It really does. Because it's like, well, how much do we say? How much do we share? Do we have to tell you what's happening? Are we going to ruin this for you? And so when we had our in-person book club, I went to great lengths to try and make that as easy as possible. So for all of the Lewis books that we did, I recorded them onto audio, put them on my Google Drive and said, you can sit and listen to them if you like. I would have like a page summary with like the key sections and some of the key quotations. So even if somebody hadn't read it, they could at least read through those sections and have a rough idea of what was talked about. And they could actually, they could pull apart the text a little bit, at least what was there. But my chief concern was that of the books that we were going through, I was sure that lots of people, for example, had read Mere Christianity, but it might have been a while. And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't exclude people if we would get into the weeds. So I tried to make it a rule that we'd always provide enough structure, enough of the summary, walk through the section that we were doing enough so that if somebody hadn't read it, or they had read it, but it was just a while ago, that they would be able to follow along with our discussion. And that, I gotta say, is the thing that I love about your podcast, because as you say, you walk through the book, and I've loved your choices, and it's what it's provided for me is a way of revisiting books quickly without actually having to reread them all. Yeah. So, for example, you did an excellent episode on The Great Divorce, and I've been invited onto other podcasts to do an intro to The Great Divorce, and I thought yours was absolutely flawless. I would thoroughly recommend anybody, if you've never read it, or you've read it tons of times, or just once or twice, I think yours is a really great summary of all of the sort of key things that happen, as well as orienting the reader enough so that if it had been a while, they would still be able to do it, as well as other books that I absolutely love, in particular The Scarlet Pimpernel, because that's my wife's favorite book. Wow. And as we were dating, she kept trying to get me to read it. And I don't know why I didn't. I was just being obstinate and difficult. And she even tried to read me some of her favorite sections of it every single time. Without failure, I'd fall asleep on the couch. And so it was actually only when she was doing The Scarlet Pimpernel with her book club here in La Crosse after, 4 years worth of marriage, as she was going through it, I thought, okay, now's the time. So I read it on the sly and thoroughly enjoyed it, and was kicking myself. I was like, oh, why did I fight this?
Stephen was with you. He hadn't read it. I don't know what was wrong with him, but
brand new to me. I loved it.
Well, the thing is, I'd seen a couple of adaptations, or at least parts of the adaptations. There was a BBC one in the 90s, I want to say, and it was really pitched as it's basically James Bond during the French Revolution. And I can sort of see why somebody would take that angle, but it was about a marriage. That's what it was really about. It was about a husband and wife trying to communicate with each other, trying to be vulnerable, and mostly failing. And I just adored that book.
No, I'm very grateful Jody introduced me to it, because that's been the other really fun part about this podcast for me. I mean, there's the books I've read, but then, and Jody and I have shared a lot of books that we've both read, but then for each of us, there's books that are new to us, where the other one gets to introduce us to a new, wonderful story. And it's been fun. It's opened up doors for me in doing this, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, same here. Discarded Image. I learned so much. It's not something I could tackle on my own, but it's really useful to have Stephen around, because you can be like, tell me about the First Crusade. Go. And he can't. Not normal.
This is the thing that I've repeatedly said about Lewis in particular, but it's definitely true for books in general, that if you have someone that you can talk to about it, and sometimes it's just simply picking up the enthusiasm of another person who loves this particular book that you might otherwise struggle with. And we've actually had people contact our podcast and say, yeah, it's not so much the analysis that I come to you guys for. I just kind of need the energy to get excited about another book that it's going to be taxing. I'm going to have to think hard. I'm going to have to read carefully. And so I just kind of want to feed off the energy that you guys have as you're reading. I've definitely found the same has been true with your own podcast. Now, you guys have been cranking these out at a pretty good rate. And when we briefly spoke before you guys started, I said, just like, whatever routine you get into, just try and make sure that you can keep up with it. And so I have been tremendously impressed. But do you have an overall plan as to which books you're going to do, or is it literally you just reached over to the bookshelf and was like, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed this, and you just like build up a stack and it's like, it's about a year's worth of books for us to talk about?
Kind of that. As we've been gathering together, we sort of will brainstorm, hey, what would be a good one to add to the list? And then we just continuously add to the list. So we've got several in the future. The list isn't static, so we juggle it around kind of based on life. A lot of these we've been able to do thus far have been ones that we're both pretty familiar with. And so that speeds it up. There's definitely probably going to be some that are going to take longer to read and longer to prep on. But for the most part, it's just, hey, I really like this book. We should talk about it. And then we do. And so that's been our method so far. Do you have anything to amend on that, Jody?
I just like to make it a weird mix. So like going from Chesterton to Mary Poppins. I mean, it's funny. It's funny to do. To jump around. Later on, we're planning to do War in Heaven and then maybe Mrs. Pigglewiggle after. It'd be so good. Like, I like the juxtaposition big time. So
this makes me very happy, because on Pints with Jack, we try and alternate the genres each time. So that we're never doing either a literary book followed by another literary book, or we switch to science fiction or literary criticism or theology or philosophy. And I do like that mix, and I like those suggestions. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, we planned like 10 out. We did the first 10 really quickly, kind of just to have practice, get some reps doing it. So we're kind of once a week now. But it like I said, it's way more fun than working. So happy to do it. It's delightful.
And I'm really looking forward to your War in Heaven, because we were originally going to be doing a Charles Williams month this season. My baby's coming. I don't have time. We're wrapping things up. We'll do Charles Williams next season. But I have actually finally started reading his books, because I've sort of asked people about him and read like short articles and on websites about Williams, but I'd never actually jumped into his actual stuff. I've really enjoyed War in Heaven. I asked Serena Higgins which one should I go for first, and she gave me a couple of options. She said, the nice thing about that one is it's actually got a plot.
That does help.
It does make me a little scared for some of Williams's other works, but I do find that one encouraging. And you also mentioned Mary Poppins. I read Mary Poppins growing up, and I remember being thoroughly disappointed, because I grew up on the Disney movie, and then you come to the books, she's kind of mean.
That's what I said. Yes, she is.
Yeah, we concur. Yeah.
But there is really cool magic and story and really fun stuff in it with the stars, and the dancing cow, I think, is Steven's favorite. Or no, it changed. Now it's the babies talking. I mean, there's such beautiful things despite her being very severe, yes.
Have there been any other books that you've talked about thus far that have stood out, either just because you love them generally or because of the dynamic of actually talking through it in a podcast?
There've been a couple for me. For me, I loved getting the chance to do The Ball and the Cross. I have always loved Chesterton, and that one just blew my mind when I first read it, and I've been dying to talk to somebody about it. But I had never actually met anyone who had read it, so I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And so Jody very graciously agreed to read it, and that just, I loved it, and I really loved that episode. The other episode for me that I've loved is The Discarded Image. It's usually what I put out as my second favorite C.S. Lewis book. C.S. Lewis is my favorite author. Great Divorce is my favorite, but Discarded Image I have gotten just so much out of. But it's not one that I expect a lot of other people to read, but I love the chance to get to express why I love it. And so it'll never be our most popular podcast, but I'm proud of having tried it and have done it, and I've enjoyed it. So
that's definitely one that I'm going to add to our website, because for all of Lewis's books, I try and put on all of the resources related to each book that I can find. And my Discarded Image collection is exceptionally small. So I'm really pleased that you went ahead and did that, because we're probably not going to get to that until maybe season 14. It was a really good introduction for me, because I skimmed through the section on the planets because of Dr. Michael Ward and Narnia, but I hadn't touched the rest of it. So it was nice to get a little bit of a sneak peek. How about you, Jody?
They're all different, and it's hard to pick because each story is so different. In general, I think people should just go read them because it's so much better than us talking about it, but it's a good introduction. So Captain's Courageous, we just did, and Kipling, that one is new to me, and that one was really fun to go through, actually. And just the diversity of things Kipling has done. I learned so much in prepping for these. It's awesome. The other one was Mostly Magic, which is a fairy tale anthology that we read as kids. And we got to learn that my mom has always felt bad about buying them. They got suckered by a door-to-door salesman, and she felt dumb about it for decades, and now feels absolved because we brought it up on the podcast. So, things work in mysterious ways, and that's a blessing right there. So they've all been really fun, though.
Now, you said you learned a lot in the preparation for some of those, and I'm curious as to your thoughts as to how it changes your reading experience when you've basically got to present on a book for an hour or so.
I have to remember that I have to pronounce it. My whole life,
I have noticed a few pronunciations like, oh.
I read in my head. I don't speak out loud. I don't read out loud, but you've got to pronounce it. And so that definitely changes the way I approach it.
I feel that way with Russian and French novels. When they got long names, it's like, it's Mr. M, it's Mr. R, it's... And when someone asks me, what's this book about? Well, there's this guy called M, R, and Q, and it's only when I actually meet somebody that's actually really studied it that I discover how you actually pronounce most of their names.
Oh, we're doing Beowulf right now. The names are ridiculous. So just buckle up for the names. We try, But I did see a thing that said if someone mispronounces something, it's okay because it means they learned it by reading.
Yeah, I also agree with that with that form of absolution. My wife is a great reader, and the same sort of thing has happened with her when she's been talking about a certain book, and I'm just looking at her. I was like, "What are you talking about? It's not even close to how you pronounce it." But I am also English, and she's American, so I criticize her speech most of the time anyway. So she's sort of used to it.
Well, you can tell her. I think we'd be friends. I listened to some of the Pints with Chesterton, and I think we'd be friends. But you'd know better than us that it's entirely different to have something to say about a book as opposed to just saying, I really love it. Actually, my favorite books are the ones I don't want to do as much because it's not enough to just say, oh my gosh, I love it so much. You have to say something. You have to have content around it. So that has entirely changed how I read kind of everything.
Yes, to quote Jane Austen, if I loved you less, I could speak about it more. I do feel that way about some books, but I do find that when you are forced to do it, you have to learn you learn language and a way to articulate something that you've always felt sort of usually very viscerally. And it's just worked on the level of the imagination. I can't actually quite explain what it is about this book that I love. And so you've read some George MacDonald, and the effect that his books have on me. We had a George MacDonald month, and I was literally reading through that month, and fortunately had experts on, so I didn't actually have to offer too many of my own opinions. But the impact that his writing has on me, I do find very hard to articulate. Yeah. I love it, but can't always quite find the words to explain what it is that's doing to what it's doing to me inside, or why I find some of his works just so compelling.
That's been one of the best parts for me about getting to do this with Jody, because often she will come up with those words that I can't articulate. The chance to bounce it off each other means that she sees it in ways that I don't see it, or in ways that I take for granted. And so it's been wonderful to get to appreciate these things that I think I know really well. I do know them really well, but I get to know them better and deeper by hearing Jody's thoughts on it and her take when she comes to them.
Yeah, it's actually sort of reminds me of when Marie and I started dating, and I had to articulate feelings. You know, she wasn't quite so easily dismissed with, "Oh, I'm feeling hungry. I'm feeling tired." It's like, "You want more?" It's like, start Googling, what other feelings are there?
Did you remind her you're British?
Well, yes. Push it deep down, repress it. It's what we do. But the practice of trying to explain what it is you like, and also sometimes what you don't like about a book, I have found it helpful as an exercise. And that brings me to the next question. Are you going to read books and discuss books that you actually are not a fan of? Are you going to have any hate bait on your podcast?
I don't think so. We've talked a little bit about this. People have recommended that. And life's too short to just talk about things you don't like. And there's so much that I do like. We'll never get to it all. And so I would much rather speak about what I'm for than what I'm against. It's one of the things I love about C.S. Lewis so much. So have you read The Pilgrim's Regress recently?
No.
So
no.
At the end of it, I was surprised. I reread it again recently and was surprised to find how much I liked it. But at the end of it, his afterword was wonderful, because he basically said, "Yeah, I see why people don't like this one. I'm not terribly fond of it." And one of the things he said was that he thought he was not charitable towards some of the things he was criticizing in the book. And as I think about his writings, especially if you get through his more technical stuff, the 16th literature of the 16th century and a bunch of those
excluding
things.
drama.
What you get out of him is how much he just loved everything, that he could get something good even out of things he really disagreed with. When you read his letters, you get that about his conversations with people, even people he disagreed with, he could love and get things out of. And I think that's the right way to approach literature. So I have really zero interest to come at this as a critic. That's not my role. I've never written anything worthwhile. What I want to come at this as an enthusiast, as an amateur who loves this stuff. And so I don't see us taking a negative tack. And in fact, we've actually cut out things from podcasts where we've been talking and one of us says, "Well, actually, I didn't like that because of this." And I don't think we want to be critical. I mean, Jody, is there anything else that you'd add to that?
I think it's kind of a cultural thing for right now, where people kind of bring stuff down, or let's look at the real story, right? Or let's make evil kind of good. I'm not really enjoy to focus on that. I mean, there are so many good stories and such hope and such lessons that we can learn from all kinds of things. So that's definitely more how I enjoy reading. And I don't need to crap on something that somebody else made. So
yeah, I used to be a completist. So if I was really not enjoying a book, I would still push through to the bitter end. Now I give it until a third of the way through, maybe 50%. And this is like, this isn't for me.
I had that shift as well. There comes a point when you've read enough books to kind of skip it if it's not suiting you. And that's okay. There are other ones. And I don't need to emphasize which ones those are that didn't suit me. So.
But what about the ones that do? Which authors or books are you particularly excited about to do at some point this year?
I want to do Charles Williams. I love Charles Williams. I think I've heard Andrew say on your podcast, there's nothing else quite like him. So if you like his style, there's nothing else that's quite like Charles Williams. And I love him. And I love how different each of his works are. And then I desperately want to do more George MacDonald. I think he's a master, and there's so much to talk about on those. And like Jody, there are other things that I'm very intimidated by. Lord of the Rings is my favorite book ever. How can you do Lord of the Rings? I don't know. I mean, I can't believe we did The Hobbit. So I'm still...
And I have been very impressed with it. Until somebody has done it, trying to do an analysis and talk through a book in an hour is really difficult. It's even harder if you got Matt and Andrew that love the rabbit trails. But that is really difficult, and I've been very impressed with how you guys have done it. But yeah, I don't know how you would even try and do the Lord of the Rings.
You couldn't. It would have to stretch out longer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jody?
Well, we did think about being the George MacDonald podcast. I mean, but we're not, experts in any way. We just love him. I love him. The Unspoken Sermons has done more to change my faith life than probably any other book than the Bible. I mean, he is wonderful, but so wordy. So we decided to diversify. But Jane Eyre is probably the book I've read the most number of times. Till We Have Faces is one of those that I don't know how I do it, but I'd love to do it. Till We Have Faces. There's so much to it, but yeah, that one's outside my current word abilities. Honestly, Les Mis would be wonderful. It's one of my faves. But again, how do you do it? Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But I would love to do something where we can give people a taste, like you're talking about the flavor of stuff, right? The taste of it. So even if you're never going to read it, that you can have even a piece of it. Don Quixote's in that list too. Again, How do you do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
These are aspirational ones.
Well, and sometimes those aspirational ones, you just got to go for it and just sort of see what happens. I mean, we only did Till We Have Faces in season 3 just because so many people messaged us and asked, "Can you do it?" And I hadn't read it. Matt hadn't read it. And I'd only heard people say, "Ooh, yeah, that one's a bit different. Ooh, yeah." I know a lot of people that love Lewis, but just don't really like that one. And it's like, all right.
What you guys did with it was fantastic. I loved that season. I mean, again, your podcast is far and away my favorite podcast. I've enjoyed every season you've done. Oh, yeah. So I'm thrilled to be here because I really, really loved what you do.
Well, that's really encouraging. And so that's really my final question for people that are out there that are thinking of starting a podcast. What advice would you give them?
Don't wait. Just jump in. If we'd waited to get our first episode perfect, we'd still be waiting. You kind of got to do it to figure it out and learn. And everybody says that, but I agree as well. Just have a direction and jump in.
And you're going to hate your voice at some point, but
yes,
that's okay.
Yes. And I know what my laugh looks like now in audio. It's the strangest thing.
I used to do a little with my tongue before speaking, and it took me about 2 solid seasons to slowly start getting that down. But I would just look at the waveform as I was editing. It's like, oh, I'm not even listening. Just cut it.
I know.
And occasionally I'd go to my friends, like, do I really sound like this? How about you, Stephen?
Find somebody like Jody to make it actually work. I mean, this wouldn't work without her getting it all set up. I mean, she's the one who does it. I just show up and talk about books I like. She does all the hard work on it, and so that makes it much easier. And I guess the other thing I would say to people, if you're going to do a podcast, listen to the first couple. One of the things that really surprised me about this one is, I mean, I don't like the sound of my voice, but I enjoy listening to the podcast. And I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to actually like listening to the episodes. And I do. And I think so if you're talking about something you enjoy, something you're passionate about, I think that can carry you a long way. Or I hope it does. I mean, we're still just starting, but we've been having fun with it.
I know quite a few podcasters that never listen to their own podcast. Once they've hit stop on the recording, they never listen to it again.
Really?
That wasn't... Yeah.
Yeah, do you listen to
That-
yours?
Well, I've always listened to ours. I used to do the editing, so I got intimately familiar with all of my verbal tics. But then even when it was published, I would listen to it as I was going to work that morning. And so that was part of my own regular routine. And it's one of the things that we say on the podcast that we pray for our listeners every time that an episode goes live. And that was always my prompt, that when I saw a Pints of Jack episode appear in my podcast app, I knew I had to pray for listeners. And then I get to listen to myself, and then the internal critique comes. It's like, why did I answer like that? Why did I say that? This would have been a far better thing. And it's like, that sounded smart. I should have sounded like Andrew there.
That's why I keep Steven around. He sounds kind of like Andrew. So.
And he also has a good beard as well. It always helps. All right. Where can people go to listen to your podcast? And you can just remind everyone of its name.
So it's called Good Stories Podcast. You can find us on Apple or Spotify or really anywhere people listen to podcasts. We also have a webpage, goodstoriespodcast.net, or we have a Facebook page that I'm trying to build up, but we are not social media people. But I really try to put something out there.
It's my least favorite part of doing a podcast, because I know you're meant to do that stuff. It's like, so boring.
Yeah, I'm with you. But they are fun. I too listen to us because I can dissociate from the sound of my voice a little bit, and they make me smile. I enjoy them. I laugh consistently in the same spots. That's annoying. But it is fun.
I love it. Well, Jody, Stephen, thank you for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to your episodes as you move forward. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a crossover at some point on the regular feed, probably next season. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, thank you for having us. If there's anything we can ever do, I mean, we are new and starting, but happy to help or participate or whatever helps. So let us know.
Well, I will definitely be calling upon you when we get to season 14 and do the discarded image.
That's Steven, right there. That's Steven.
Standing by. Looking forward to it.
And viewers, please join us again next time, and we'll continue going further up and further in. Cheers.